So, as far as my thing, the few moments, and I mean moments of free time that I actually had, I started playing two games that are shooters but have, RPG elements. And I find myself torn. I don't know if I like it or don't like it. And the two games were The Division and Destiny 2. Now, obviously, we know the game both have their faults, and some people hate them. But for me, it's not about attacking the game. It's more about how I feel about the idea of a shooter where you're that has that RPG element. So what I mean is when I'm playing like an RPG or something and you start off and it's like, sword and board, right? And you think about it this way that you start out and you might be fighting like a level 1, rat, or even it could be a demon but it's level 1, and you have a sword. It might be a rusty sword or it might be a squire sword or something like that. And as you go forward, you get items and you put it on. And I guess maybe we're so used to that it doesn't seem as out of place. You get a new shield, even if the shield looks stranger or doesn't look as bright and shiny as the old one. Hey, if it says it has more stats or has a special ability, so be it. You put it on. Same thing with gear. But man, it's like when I was playing, like for instance, Division. In the Division, you're basically there was like a terrorist attack where they put like a biological agent on money and it starts killing people, like in the New York area. So you go in there and you're trying to not only you're kind of like a sleeper agent, and you're not only trying to find out what's going on and stop these people, but there's also like looters and people trying to kill people and all kinds of stuff. So you're running around with all these weapons, shotguns, sniper rifles, handguns. But what's really strange about it is you still have that leveling system. So you might have a guy who has a flamethrower and he's level 1. But if you run to a certain part of town, and for the most part, they try and separate it so you can gradually go. But some areas you can be like level 10 and run into a level 25. And it's funny because you're running to the level 25 and it's like some random gangbanger with a handgun, but he's just destroying you, while the level 1 guy with the flamethrower isn't. And obviously, in RPGs, you have the same thing where it could be a level 20 rat, and you're like, why is this rat owning me? But I don't know. There's just something about having a gun where I have a sniper rifle and I shoot a guy in the head and it does 10 damage because I forgot to switch to my newer sniper rifle. So this sniper rifle only does 10 damage and the new one does 256 damage. And I'm like, but I shot him in the head. Or you're shooting a guy in the head like 3-4 times like you're fighting a boss, and I don't know why it's hard for me to get it, because it's the same thing with in RPGs. You can chop a guy with a sword 3-4 times, and it's because he's high level or whatever. He has a high block skill. He's alive. But for some reason, I don't seem to have a problem with that. But when you shoot somebody with a shotgun and it's like, oh, it did glancing damage, it's just, I don't know. It hurts my soul. I don't know. Am I making any sense here, man? Or am I crazy?
So here's the thing. Like, before the show that we were talking about this, and you were saying like the two games that you get this with is Destiny and the Division. And it's funny because like I like the Division. Like I started playing it on the PlayStation. I got it now on my PC. And it's weird because when you look at the two games, it is Destiny is a first-person shooter that has RPG elements, and Division to me feels like an RPG with shooter elements.
Yeah.
And it's weird because, like you say, in the Division, like, ooh, I sneak up on this guy. We're about the same level, and I'll take an assault rifle, and I'm unloading on this guy. And oh, look, I fired an entire clip into this guy to kill him. Or like you say, with the sniper rifle, I had to shoot him 3 times in the head. I'm like, look, I'm sorry. Doesn't matter what type of gun you have. If you shoot somebody in the head, they're going down in one bullet, And that's, I think, where like I feel like kind of like the same with you. It's like it's cool that it's an RPG, and oh look, this gun does more damage. Cool, I'm gonna sit there and take this, and it's neat to get that progression out of it. But at the same time, it almost feels like rolling dice on the table. Like, oh yeah, I get another die that I can roll and get damage out of it. And it just doesn't quite feel like a shooter to me. And that's the thing that's funny about like Destiny is it feels like a shooter, and it just has these like RPG elements where, hey, this gun does more damage, so instead of having to shoot 5 shots to kill him, I can shoot 4, you know. And like I'm agree with you. I'm kind of like torn because like I totally agree. Like if it's a fantasy thing, it's like, oh, I can understand. Here's a dull sword, here's a sharp sword. The sharp sword's gonna cut easier, you know.
And I think that maybe with Destiny it's a little bit easier because of how it's sci-fi, and you could say, oh well, maybe these aliens have armor and some of these aliens have a shield, or maybe this energy weapon does different versus this energy weapon. And I guess it's closer to that RPG, regular sword and board, knights and armor element where you can suspend the belief, which I guess you should be doing as you're playing games anyway. But with the Division, it really stuck out to me because, like you said, there'd be a point where you'll run up and sometimes there'll be just like spontaneous things going on. Like you're doing your mission and there'll be a spontaneous bank robbery or someone's breaking into a car. And then you go up and you select a person and then you unload your clip and all the bullets miss, and you realize it's because this group that's just running in circles around the city is level 20 and you're level 14. And it's just like you're sitting there and you're stuck in this animation like brrr, and it's the guy's looking at you like you have a toy, and you just it just feels so wrong.
I think my favorite thing in that game is where you're like, all right, I'm going to go to this mission. And you're just like running through the streets and you just run into a gang of people like, oh crap. And you get into this gunfight all of a sudden. But it's like, man, it's just so, it's like weird because I totally like agree with what you say. And when I sit there and I think of games like this, it reminds me of the old MMO Tabula Rasa, which was from Richard Garriott, which when you sit there and you look at it, like that dude knows MMOs. Like this is the king of Ultima Online, like the great granddaddy of all MMOs. And I remember playing it and I liked it, but there were elements of the game that I was just like, And one of the elements I did not like was to unlock skills for your character. You essentially had to go to different areas and find these like alien stone tablets and unlock them. So the weird thing about it was like you knew because it would show you what letters of these like tablets you had to find, but you didn't know where they were. So it was a lot of, okay, I need the J, the K, and the F. And you'd literally go searching online for somebody who found them and would post the coordinates of it, and then you would just go there and get them. But the gunfighting in the game felt so weird because it wasn't like, oh, I take my guy and I shoot at the alien. Like it was the traditional World of Warcraft, like you clicked on the enemy and started hitting your skills.
Yeah.
So it was weird because like, oh, it's an RPG. Like the guns are just like, this is your weapon instead of a sword and a shield. And it's a shame that that game died out because it was just like it had a really interesting idea. I feel like the implementation of it was just slightly off.
And I felt like that in some older MMO games too, like Anarchy Online. I felt like that. That was one of those games, like you said, like the old EverQuest, where you'd click on the guy, hit your skill, and you have to wait because sometimes the guy would like kind of aim, and then you'd see the shots, and it would do nothing because of random number generator. Same thing in the original Star Wars game that came out from Sony, and that was the same thing. You'd have your trooper, you'd run out, and there'd be like whatever, a sand viper or something. You click on it, and it's like blam blam blam, and you'd wait to see the little numbers come up, and it's like you did 2, 4, 1, and you're there like, what? I just shot this little rat 7 times with an Imperial blaster, and that's it. I took a quarter of its health. Hey guys, listen. You like the games? You like the interviews? You like the shows? How about you click on that subscribe button and also give us a like? We really need your help here, huh?